Okay, everybody, this is the Cowboy Perspective. I'm at the Texas Southwestern Cattle Raisers Association. I'm in booth 600. I don't know why I'm saying that. It just seems like a cool number. But I do have a couple of ladies that are integral in the organization and in really the community, the education, the communication, and I want to introduce them to you guys and gals out there listening and also get a little bit of their cowgirl perspective. So let's just start to my immediate left. Emily, would you tell us who you are, where you're from, and a little bit about why you would be working for an ag association? Or
You bet. Yeah. Thanks so much for having us, Neil. This is just such a great gathering of folks and great opportunity for everybody to be together. And, it makes Jacqueline and I so proud to get to work for the association and get to be part of this. We feel honored to be here. My name is Emily Lochner, and I'm the Executive Director of Education and Engagement at Cattle Raisers, and I've been here about 4 years now. For me, was just such a natural fit. My family, I grew up, I'm a fifth generation rancher and producer, and I always tell people, on my dad's side is a fourth generation dairy operation, and my mom's side is a fifth generation beef operation. And so when they got married, the family kind of merged, and so we have both a dairy and a beef operation. And since that time, it's grown, and now we have a hay and a grass business as well. And so a lot of different moving parts. And I grew up in this. We lived on the ranch, still do. My husband and I live right on the north end of the ranch, right on the Brazos River in Waco. So I work from home.
Oh, you poor thing.
I know it.
You're going to live right there on the river, the Brazos River.
The Brazos River.
Wait till y'all hear where I live.
Jacqueline and I live in two totally different environments. Jacqueline and I both work from home, the only two off-site employees at the association. But yeah, it's a great place to live, and my husband is slowly taking it over, and so we can continue on the operation.
Okay, so see, that's the cool stuff. That is the cowboy perspective, the cowgirl perspective.
Well, and
your husband, who is not blood, is coming in and now taking over this thing your mom and dad put together. That's a really cool thing. Yeah. I think people struggle sometimes for that to happen. It was true for my father-in-law. My father-in-law came in and ended up kind of being the president and CEO of this feed and dairy operation that my mother-in-law's family built. So That's a pretty cool story, I think.
Well, and for Jacqueline and I both, and Jacqueline's family and her husband's family, they do the same thing on the farm side. And it's not unusual for us to be on a call or working on emails and press releases or working on education, and then Jacqueline will say, it's 5 o'clock. I've got to run out to the field and
we got to move a truck.
Yeah. Or and I'm the same way. My husband's in the cornfield, and he needs me to run and go get some oil and bring it to him. And so we're blending the lifestyle of working for association. So
do you open the gates, or do you make him open the gates? That's the real question.
Depends on if I'm on a phone call.
Yes.
I open a lot of gates these days.
Listen, I'm telling you, when I was a kid, it was a fist fight to get the middle seat.
Yeah.
So when we're feeding cattle, we're trying to get the middle seat, so you don't have the job of opening the gate, running all the errands, doing the stuff that Dad needs done.
Yeah.
Okay, let's jump to Jacqueline real quick. By the way, Emily, don't let me forget. I want to talk about the dairy business.
Yep.
You're talking about beef cattle and dairy, but I think a lot of listeners don't understand. A dairy alone is a beef operation as well. Mm-hmm. So
ours especially. We can fill in. Go ahead,
that's
Jacqueline.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I'm Jacqueline Parrish. I'm our Executive Director of Communications and Marketing at Texas and Southwestern Cattle Raisers Association. Unlike Emily, I do not live on the Brazos River. I live in Tokyo, Texas, which is a very, very small farming community in West Texas in Yoakum County. And so my husband and I grew up the county over in Terry County, and my family still lives there. But I came back home, married Troy about 2 years ago that I moved back. And so my husband farms peanuts, cotton, and corn. My parents still farm, my grandparents still farm, and I'm here at been with TSCRA, I guess, coming on 2 years as well. And my background, I was with the National Cattlemen's Beef Association before, and so I was up in D.C., did our policy communications for the team there, and made my way back. And like Emily said, we're on the farm and get to weave in and out of the corporate world and the farming business as well, which is fun.
I mean, not to cut you off, but I'm excited. I want to give the TSCRA a big high five for getting the people who are educating and putting the message out to Americans, to anybody that will listen, I've got to assume, who are involved in agriculture, who also have this skill set of painting a story, telling a story, knowing what the strategy is behind these things. So really high five to the TSCRA leadership for getting you gals involved. Okay, so and anybody listening, you got to go check out the TSCRA. If it is, by the way, am I whispering?
No,
No,
I
you
can
sound
hear
good,
you.
but it's just far away. So
No, that's fair
I can
enough.
hear you.
I have everything's really loud in my ears because I'm wearing these, and I got to
Yeah.
thinking, Jacqueline looks like she's having a hard time hearing me. I'm probably whispering because it's loud in my ear.
No,
Anyways, this is like the listeners are used to me doing that kind of stuff
Yeah.
because I think at the end of the day, we're having a conversation. If you can't hear me, that's not any fun. If they can't hear you, it's not any fun. So
Sure.
if you're hearing me fine, that's all good.
Yeah.
So let's jump back to Emily's dairy and explain to the listeners a little bit about how I hear dairy, I think of milk, I think of Holsteins. What do y'all do? And let's paint a little picture of how that actually is also a beef operation.
Well, and at our operation, it is very much so beef operation because so our operation, and you're right, by the way, having the opportunity to be plugged in and be on the ranch every day, we know the pressing issues, and they apply to us just as much as they do our members. And so that's really a neat tie for both Jacqueline and I. But so at our operation, we on our beef side, we raise seed stock Brangus bulls, and we sell Brangus bulls primarily to a lot of South Texas and Mexico, but a little bit all over. And then we actually take those Brangus bulls that aren't sold at the end of the bull sale season, and we put them on our dairy cattle. So we run 100% beef bulls on our dairy cattle, and we have 100% black calves, and 100% of our calf crop goes to the feedlot. And we retain those calves, so they'll be half dairy, half Brangus calves. They go to the feedlot. We retain them all the way through, and then we buy in replacement heifers on the dairy side to continue that cycle. It's for us, it's just a lot more profitable to send them to the rail than to raise them from 6 days old. And so we actually sell all of our dairy calves, half dairy, half beef calves, once a week every 6 days. They go to a calf ranch in Dodge City, Kansas. They get sold, and so it for us has been a really great blend of both businesses, particularly in the last 10 years. 10 years ago, dairy on beef wasn't, it was a conversation, but in the last 10 years, dairy on beef has just exploded.
Yeah.
And we have seen just a really great return on sending those calves through, and they grade high and they sell well. I think that, the feedlot and packer industry has come a long way when it comes to dairy cattle, being sold on the rail in the last 10 years. And so it's been a neat blend for our family.
I love that insight. Listeners, think about it. I think America barely knows where food comes from. Most people, they barely know. That's not a knock on them. It's kind of on us, really. Mm-hmm. We've got to tell that story. We've got to paint it vividly. I interviewed a guy one time. He rode bulls for a living, and he was talking about how his mentor told him, when you talk about riding bulls, you got to understand, nobody else rides bulls. You've got to put what it feels like, smells like, exactly everything about that, so they get a good insight into what bull riding is. So that's kind of what I think our job is, to tell that very detailed truth about what you do with your dairy cows, why you're breeding, beef bulls to the females so you can get them start milking and these kind of things. Okay, Jacqueline. Let's see. What's a good question? I know you girls are busy. You got a lot of things going, so I don't want to take too much time.
On that, telling that story piece, we can talk, Emily and I can talk a lot about that too. A lot of what we're seeing, that is part of our job, right? Is to tell that story about communication, communicating this story of today's farmers and ranchers. And, the truth be told, they look a lot different today than they did 20 years ago. And, that's one of the things Emily's department, from an education perspective, a lot of what she's doing is putting out this type of content. We're seeing a lot of folks that are just getting into this industry that, they don't really have a great basis. They're learning, they're growing, and we're coming onto one of the biggest land transitions that we're ever going to see in generations, truly. The average age of the America's farmers and ranchers is 6 years old, and that land's about to change hands in the next 10, 20 years. And we're going to see that happen. And so there's a lot of things that we've got to employ the next generation to do. Lots of folks have left the farm and ranch, and so the individuals that we may see that come in and fill this role, we're going to see operations change in size. We're going to see individuals come in, that maybe don't have a background in this, and so there's a lot of things we've got to be able to tell that story and talk about, why we do what we do and how we do that. And then Emily's team comes in as well, and on the education side, and helps a lot there.
In a way, that's a bit of our responsibility too at the association. Is to know what's coming and to answer the call. Like Jacqueline said, we know that farms and ranches are turning over, and we know that agriculture is going to look different in 10 to 20 years. And it's up to us to answer the call and reach out to those folks, whether they're coming back to their grandfather's ranch or they're coming into the industry for the first time. We got to grab their hand and hold on for dear life.
And talk about the challenges that they're facing, right? So, I think that coming back to the farm or ranch, having left, right? When you come back home and kind of getting to see it from that perspective, you've really opened your eyes. We don't always. It's not so much telling the story of what we do sometimes, but where we need help. I think about that on the policy front, and telling about how some of these programs and these policies actually impact us on the ground. I think that's that's a highly, we don't always see that perspective of sometimes it's about
under communicated a lot of times.
Right.
Yeah. How this stuff impacts us. And so, it can be as small as taxes to, the estate tax being a great example of one of those policy issues that impacts farms and ranches. And we talk about this land transfer. That's going to be a hot topic on the policy front come the next couple of years for sure.
Yeah. I'll just ask. I'm sitting here thinking, do I really want to ask this question?
Lay it on us.
I guess I will. How does somebody who's not in agriculture already get in the game? Because we're talking about this land transition, right? I live in a family where that's going to have to happen. And
yeah.
We're doing a little bit of planning, but I'd argue not enough planning, but we're trying to figure it out. So, and some of us have gone off and built careers and do podcasts and sell bacon and do a lot of other things. So like me in particular, I'm probably unlikely to come back to the ranch. A lot of my generation is. So let's say we got to replace those workers or those landowners, etc. So what do y'all think about that? How does somebody who's just thinking, wow, ag's a cool sector, I'd love to get in the game, how do they do that?
When does this air?
That's the same question. When does this air? And then I'll tell you how to answer that question.
I really don't know. I'm recording 5 or 6 or 7 of these.
Before tomorrow?
Before tomorrow?
No, not
okay.
before tomorrow.
All right. Well, that changes my answer then. I can answer differently.
Let me set you up,
Why do you
Emily.
say that?
Jacqueline, I was just about to say, when does this air?
Yeah, why do you say that?
No,
Is there new information coming that I don't know?
Tomorrow morning at 9 a.m.
You heard it here first.
Yeah, that's right.
You
Hey.
get it first.
So, but that is, you 100% you capture that problem. Land prices are going up. we're about to see this huge transition of land. We know that there's a big responsibility ahead. There's a big challenge ahead, and there's lots to do. And we recognize that, my husband and I, trying to grow our own operation, and Emily as well, it's difficult. You've got to scale that, especially when you've got more folks and more families. But Emily's department is actually about to launch a program. And Emily, you should talk about the Leadership Development Foundation, what it does, and then y'all's new program as well. It'd be great.
Yeah. So, we are just thrilled to be able to announce a new program at Cattle Raisers Convention. So back February 1st, like Jacqueline said, we know there's a transition coming, and we know it's up to us to answer the call, and so many others. But we can't just sit by and watch this happen. And like I said earlier, we got to grab the hand of those that want to come in, and we need to hold on, but we need to help them.
Yeah.
And so February 1st, the association announced a new 501c3 a foundation called the Leadership Development Foundation. And the goal of that is to develop those who need to come into or need to stay into the ag industry. How can we help you?
Yeah.
And at convention, we are very proud to announce that we have a new program called the Working Grant Program. That will open twice a year, every May and November. And anybody can apply for a grant to help them financially with financial cash capital.
So where does that money come from?
So we have a variety of donors that have already donated.
So it is from people that have had success, most likely in ag or business in some regard, who say, I want other people
and they believe in this industry
to be able to get in. See,
and they believe in it.
Those people.
Yep. So people, individuals and businesses, companies, other 501c3s, many folks in the trade show here. We're so grateful for so much support from so many places. And so folks can apply, and it's not alone. You apply, you tell us your business.
You get the free money.
Free money.
Hey, by the way, there's no such thing as free money.
Cattle Raiser said free money. But in this case, the only thing that we ask is you come in or stay into the beef industry.
Yeah.
You don't have to be a young producer. You could be any age, any race, any demographic, any level of industry background. You could be a 6th-generation producer, or you could have never owned a cow a day in your life. And you come and you tell us your business plan. It's an application form, and you tell us, what you hope to do, and anything in the beef value chain. Cow, calf, stalker, feeder, vet clinic. If you are fresh out of vet school and you want to open a vet clinic in rural Texas and you need help to build that building, you come tell us.
I think that's one of the coolest parts, Emily,
Yeah.
is that it really is taking a look at the full value chain, because it's not just about ranchers, right? If you don't have those resources in your rural community, it makes ranching that much harder.
Right.
Veterinary clinics, feed stores, all these different resources that you need as a rancher, building up these rural communities in rural America too. There's an emphasis on that, which is really cool.
Absolutely. I mean, if you live, in Dallas and you want to buy land, but, you go to the bank and they say, I need X amount for a down payment, and you don't have that down payment, guess who can help you with equity?
I love that. I love it. Good job. Way to think out of the box. I think it's going to require that a lot, especially if you're talking to a younger generation, maybe a group of people who didn't grow up in ag. I could see this happening. Okay, cool, I'm coming in, I'm going to do this, and the business plan looks like some kind of Allen Savory Institute structure, and I actually want to do, some kind of different things. To me, the industry has to be willing to say, okay, cool, like we got to have some of those thought processes. It can't all be done just how it was over the last 50 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're excited, and we hope that, or another example could be, you've got family land, you've been in it, and you want to continue to improve the land and grow your herd. We can help with that too. So we're just so excited to be able to help the future of the beef industry. We continuously say that the goal of the foundation is to protect the future of the beef industry in any way that we can. And the grant program is just one of it. We're reaching out to high school and college age students because we want them, when they graduate college, to come get a job in the ag industry.
Yeah.
You know,
Hey,
whether
everybody.
that's production or professional. So we're super happy about it, and
Yeah.
and can't wait for the future.
I had no clue about it, and we just got there
Yeah.
having a conversation. So if you're listening, folks, we're recording this March 22nd. The program's going to be available to you if you got a friend, family, anybody that you think could benefit from the program. Get on the website, TSCRA website. Is that going to be where they can?
TSCRA.org.
website.
Yeah, there we go.
And the application
Well-
will go live May 1.
Okay, cool. So if you're listening after May 1 or even before, just mark that date on your calendar and let's use these funds. I mean, you don't raise them, you don't put the funds together for them to sit there. You want them to go out and do
Right.
their job. Okay, last thing, then y'all get to go stay busy all day. I know that's what you're going to do. Jacqueline, one fun story, one cowgirl perspective that you have from either your grandma, your granddad, your dad, your sister, your husband, some little thing that has actually benefited you in your career that you learned being in agriculture or close
Yeah.
to somebody in agriculture. Emily, you can be
question.
thinking on it.
That's
you know?
a good one.
Good question.
You know, in probably true cowgirl form, I'm not thinking about a story about myself. I'm thinking about a story about my brother. But I grew up with, so a little bit about me. I grew up with 3 siblings. I have 3 brothers. I'm third, and then I have one younger. But my oldest brother, so I guess one of the lessons that I've learned personally, I mean, it's the spirit of hard work, right? You work hard, and you do a lot of work yourself. There's not, you don't always have help, and so
Yeah.
you roll up your sleeves and you get the job done, and you're not scared of getting your hands dirty. And I think about this now. So in our family, my husband and I are the only ones that are still back at the farm. My siblings have all moved off, and they've gotten town jobs, and we talked about that today. And
Town jobs.
Town jobs.
Ha ha.
Yeah, what that looks like, and it's hard. I mean, it is a hard thing. But one of my siblings lives in Dallas, and they had just bought this home, and they were working on their front yard, and they just decided to go ahead and just put in their flower beds and raise flower beds. The amount of neighbors, my brother tells this story, the amount of neighbors that came up to him and said, "Where did you learn to do this?"
Right.
And he said, this was my summer every year, at home. And he said, you just better be glad we don't have any weeds to hoe, because
Yes,
so much worse. But no, that story makes me smile, and it makes me super proud, because that's one example, I think, of what we learned. You're not scared. You're not scared to roll up your sleeves. You're not scared for a project. You're not scared to go into something that you don't know. And it's okay to do hard things. And that's I think that's one of the lessons that I've taken away from the farmer ranch. I look back at my grandmother, and I look back at my mom, and growing up, we had a row crop operation. We irrigated. Summers, you really couldn't leave because you had to water. And I think my mom and my grandma would take us to the lake. And I never thought twice about them doing the hard work of taking the kids to the lake. And, I never thought twice about on our Saturdays that we'd ride around in the sprayer. And, we'd be on the turn row, and Dad would, come back and throw us out a snack, and we never thought twice about it, right? But it's hard work, and it's good work, and I'm proud that I have that kind of work ethic, and I think that's something that I'm just so blessed to have, because it would be really hard to get that kind of quality of lessons somewhere else.
Hey, my daughters aren't getting it. They're not getting that same education. I hope there are kids out there doing it, but I'm in a town job, so I don't have this 24/7 relationship with my livelihood. That is farming, that is hoeing weeds, that is sunburns, that is
the sunburns, man, that one hits
That one hits close.
but I did so I went to school at Tech, and my best friend
we're
was
both Raiders.
all right, guns up. My best friend was a cotton farmer, so I got to hoe cotton, I got to ride the spider and spray weeds, I got to do all these things that I'd never really been introduced to on the ranch where I grew up. And all of that turns out to make me pretty badass at business. It gives me an understanding of, I'm not scared of that because I've never done it. I know that I can probably work with anybody. Like, I'm not going to, I've gone days gathering cattle, hauling hay, no lunch, no dinner, it's just work, and it's like, so, okay, cool. Most people don't get that experience. And the way I'm trying to give it to my daughters is through sports.
Yeah.
I'm because they're not getting to go. Now, I've got a couple, we raise horses, we've got chickens, we've got stuff, but it's not the same intensity that I grew up with. So I'm trying to give them that glimpse into what it takes to do hard things, go run track, run till you throw up. Like, if you haven't done that yet, you've not tried your hardest. It's that kind of stuff. Anyways, I'm way off on a tangent. Emily, tell us your story.
I have a similar one to Jacqueline. So my dad was the second of 7 children, and his father was killed when he was 12 years old in a farming accident. And my grandmother raised 7 children and ran a dairy by herself for 52 years until the day that she died. And so seeing, and we ended up, when my parents got married, purchased the place right next to my grandmother. And when she was in her 60s, she would be out milking cows at 3 o'clock in the morning. And so I grew up with very strong women in agriculture influence.
Yeah, that's a great example
in my life. And I, have so many instrumental moments. And my dad, I feel so blessed. That was all that my dad knew, was strong women in agriculture. And I think we're at this point where, women in agriculture and diversity in agriculture and just the different types of people, whether you're a small landowner or a large landowner, or you don't have any cows, but you have a passion for the industry, that's just such a melting pot. And it's so neat to see. And, my dad, there are things that you'll never forget. We grew up working it too. There were times where, if your milk hand is sick, guess who's out there milking at 3 o'clock in the morning? Yeah. We are, and
business ownership. Hey, folks, like if you think you want to quit your job, J-O-B, and go own a business, well,
it's a 24-hour-a-day deal,
especially a dairy.
And there has been many a day, where I get off at cattle raisers at 5:30 or 6 or 6:30. I'll walk away from my desk.
Really?
Or 8:30.
3 o'clock. Come on.
8:30.
Yeah. 8:30.
There's days, especially as we get nearer to convention, where it's a 8:30 midnight passed on nights. But any day that you get to walk away from your desk.
Anybody
at 6,
listening
6:30.
that puts on events will understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
Because this thing is a huge undertaking.
Yeah, but I go and I ride through our stocker cattle and look for sick ones. This is not an uncommon daily occurrence for me. But I'll never forget, before I came to work at Cattle Raisers, I was doing a lot of contract work, and so we run a stocker business as well, and buy cattle every week from different sale barns. We have contracts, but our local sale barn, my dad would go and buy cattle to fill our stocker pens, and so he asked me, we had a lot going on at the time, and he said, can you go for a few weeks and buy our stocker cattle, from West Sale Barn? And so my dad takes me up there on a Thursday at 11 a.m. And, the front row always has your steady buyers that's their seats, and they're always there in the sale barn. And
There's a little number.
Yeah.
They save it. And
They
everybody
save the
knows
seat.
That's Joe's seat. And that's Bill's seat.
They save the seat. And this had to have been 6 years ago, probably, and more than that, probably. And my dad, this is about 20 minutes before the sale starts, is introducing me to all the front row guys. And he says, this is my daughter. She's going to be here, buying cattle for the next few weeks. And I'm very proud to say that I did eventually, by the end of it, was able to back the trailer up to the loading chute, which took me a couple weeks, but I could do it eventually after the turn.
I'm telling you, that's a cowgirl perspective right there.
My dad's introducing me to the folks, and this older gentleman, he comes and he puts his arm around my dad, and he says, you really going to let this young girl buy all your cattle for you? And my dad and the auctioneer is standing there with him, and my dad says, You're dang right I am. And he swings over to the auctioneer and he says, you better never miss a bid from her.
There you go.
And
I love it.
and I'll never forget that,
That makes you feel good, doesn't it?
It
For
does,
your dad to have that kind of confidence in you. And I'm telling you, being a female sitting in that front row, you don't see a lot of them.
Scary.
It's intimidating.
Probably.
They probably mess with you a little bit too. They probably try to run you up a little bit just to test you, just to see.
See how you're
like,
doing.
hey,
Unfortunately, I'm the daughter of a dairyman. I'm too cheap for that.
that is
That
Cut off
didn't work on me. But
that's a great story,
So-
ladies.
You're always
never
looking for
forget
a
it.
deal. That's the motto of my husband.
I appreciate all the people that have believed in us and got us to
Yeah,
this
that's
point.
right. That's
So,
right.
Yeah.
Thanks for your time. I
You
so
bet.
appreciate it. Thanks for those stories. It makes me want to ask another 20 questions, but I'm not going to do it. We'll just have to catch up another time but as a caveat, what y'all talk about does rely on a banker. I mean, there's got to be somebody that can help fund this. I'm thinking if you're buying stock or cattle in any kind of number, you got to have a line of credit, and you got to be a bit of a gambler. And so I see a little gambler in each of you, and I think that's a kind of a truth in ag. Now, that doesn't mean you're going to go to Vegas and gamble a lot of money, but in ag, I mean, they just talked about the weather. Every person in this industry is gambling on the weather.
Absolutely.
We are, and we were. I live in the area where they were saying it was not looking good.
Oh yeah, I mean, but West Texas is always that way. I mean, there's a different group of people that live out there.
You
That's
have
what
to
I
be an
said.
eternal
well,
optimist.
we talked about it at the beginning of the podcast, right? Emily lived on the Brazos River. I said, "Well, I'm in Sandy Yoakum County,
Yeah, that's
where
right.
the wind blows."
But being a Red Raider, I got to meet a lot of West Texas salt of the earth, beautiful people, and they'll just wrap you right up and make you feel like family. And I think Texas does that a lot. Probably it happens all over America, but I got a certain affinity for West Texas people, and so really shout out to anybody that lives out west and really battles, because I respect the amount of battle that goes on to make it go out there.
Yeah, it is a gamble. I mean, it's 100% a gamble too, and it's I think that's a good point. Is it the commitment to be in this business is there's a lot easier ways to make a living.
But you do it because you love it.
And you do it because you love it. And man, that makes me proud. And I get so proud watching my husband walk in at the end of the day to know that he has worked so hard. And I know Emily feels the same way.
And so have you.
Yeah.
On behalf of the industry. I mean, and we get to work for those people every day.
Well, you mentioned your grandma raising those boys or that family by herself. I mean,
she was one
there
tough
was
chick.
not 1 minute in her life that was hers. I mean, and unfortunately, that's kind of the truth of it. She was working, or she was raising the kids, or she was cooking, or she was cleaning. Do you think, did she ever, can you remember her ever just doing something for herself?
Never.
So
No.
that is sacrifice, folks.
Yeah.
That is doing hard things. That is being the most giving human I've ever witnessed. Now, some people give a lot of money to this or that, but a lady who loses her husband, raises a family on a dairy. So
cool.
I mean, that is impressive and a great story, a great example for everybody to aspire to. Really.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Hey, everybody listening, go check out the TSCRA. Look up Jacqueline Roberts, Emily. Oh, by the way, how do you say that last name? Lochner. Emily Lochner. And get on your calendar May 1st to check out this grant. What's the name of that program again?
Working Grant Program.
The Working Grant Program. Get involved if you want to be in ag, if you want to be a vet, any of those things, let's do it. Next year, you better come to the convention if you aren't already. See? It was the perfect time.